it was also that time of that place being the power spot. It got to be its current, it got to be the current hangout. And we're not saying that things were going on the planet, but it tended, sometimes the energy surges kind of into one place. And it doesn't, again, we're not saying it wasn't throughout the entire Earth. We're not limiting where it was showing up. We're just saying all of a sudden there was a focused attention there. Let's put it that way. The culture and civilization had a very strong influence from culture and civilization that had already transcended back into the heavens. And we will say, there are those of you who know that as Atlantis. There are those of you that know it as Lemuria. We are not saying those are the names of the places. These are just what current people are using to identify those cultural time frames. So when Atlantis got to a place where the density was getting too strong, a lot of the beings transcended and just said, let's just move on from this. Experiment went awry, so to say. Or it's, they're already starting to feel the contraction and they weren't interested in contraction, so they transcended. There are those who stayed. And then when Atlantis went into the ocean intentionally, and we say intentionally because they really had explored just the benevolent, beautiful ways of being and manifesting in form. And the energies were getting so disruptive and dense that they said, well, that energy that's disruptive and dense cannot have this energy, because imagine if they had like giving a 2-year-old nuclear bombs to play with. Well, that wouldn't fare well. So being that these conscious beings worked with the conscious earth and said, okay, time to plant that into the oceans as a seed for another time, like around this time, where actually the manifestation of it can happen, and it may be able to manifest without it being destructed or overtaken or used out of ignorance, used out of greed or those fear-based energies. So those that stayed during the time of Atlantis, because now that place had kind of was no longer a place to physically inhabited, the beings that remained took off and settled in different places of the earth. Egypt was one of those. And that's why there were so many of the unique, advanced methods, because they were left over from the time that there was great advanced methods, where there was a great civilization. A lot of the things that you are seeing in this current time, they're not inventions, they're reinventions. It's a blueprint being placed back into someone's mind. They're sitting there on a piece of paper, they're figuring it out, they're putting it into material, they're manifesting it, but we would say it's a reinvention. Very, maybe with the current new spin on it, but essentially it's that, it was from a previous time. It was from a very previous, where the brain was not in a dormant stage, it was in a full embodied stage. So, how they say, well, you only have a percentage. Well, these beings had the full brain and capacity. So imagine what they could do. So, with Egypt, and you ask this question because you know that you were one of those beings there. With Egypt, there was the attempt to bring to salvage that pure essence and see that it didn't get in the hands of, we're just going to say, the confused energy, because that's really, if you boil it down, that's what it was. It was an energy that went from clarity to confusion. So there was an attempt. And it was a good effort, but that's all it was an attempt. And sure enough, a lot of the practices started going back to greed, competitive, confusion. And that's why they're in ruins also. That's why it's just now a museum. That's why Delphi's a museum. That's why the Mayans, they just left and say, okay, we're out of here. We don't even need to leave scraps or anything down. We're just gone. the beings that were here, that had the full brain capacity, to see that these bodies are transcendent. At that time, like Christ, we don't need to have a new body to be born into. We'll just take these with us. That's what the full capability of manifestation can allow. But that has not been done on the planet for some time now. There are beings that do, but fewer. And fewer only because the confusion and the density just kind of get darker and darker. You know, would they say the Dark Ages? Yes, that was experienced. But now that they're saying the new, and what we established earlier is the renew age, whether you call it the age of Aquarius, the age of, we'll call it the age of you being the light beings that you are. The light age, the transcendent age, the age of remembrance, the age that mankind chose to end the suffering on the planet once and for all. Yes, that is the age that you beings, with your earnest heart to assist mankind, have come here to establish. What would this earth be like if there was no suffering? Let's make a concerted effort to find out. Make at least, minimally, a concerted effort to have that be your life expression. What would my life be without suffering? What would my life be if I was in a continual state of peace and bliss? And that everywhere I went, I shared my peace and bliss with a humanity that is crying out so loud from their wails of suffering that beings like ourselves have come from great places in the galaxies to come forth at this time to assist mankind in the change, in the shift from suffering to peace, from darkness to light, from confusion to clarity, from stupidity and ignorance to wisdom and brilliance. For you to recognize when you look in the mirror, you don't look and stare and judge your being, your body. You see yourself as light that has the privilege to take on a temporary physical form to enjoy the senses of being on a planet that is beautiful. Regardless of how man has come and raped its resources, it still is beautiful. You take down a tree, a new one grows. You pick a flower, a new one grows. You level out a mountain. I mean, who put it in man's mind to level out mountains? They're doing it. But how many more mountains are on this planet for all of you to enjoy? Go pick one. Go climb one. Go pick the ones in your backyard. Enjoy them. Enjoy them. Enjoy the beings all around you. Enjoy them. Enjoy. Enjoy your life. It's like, God, rest in peace. You rest in peace. You surrender to peace. You surrender to the stillness and the silence where peace always exists. Do you want to see peace and heaven on earth? I want to actually hear a yes or no.
Yes.
Are you willing to manifest in your life peace and heaven on earth?
Yes.
We will make it very easy for you Give up the suffering. Give up the sense of separation. Stop seeing yourself as separate from that person, judging them as better or lesser than you. Yourself better or lesser than them. See yourself in the unified unity of mankind, and mankind will unify in unity. Can we hear an amen?
Amen.
We like to preach every so often. You've all been preached at plenty, I know, but every so often we like to hear an amen.
Amen.
The amens being replaced by Om, Shanti, Shanti. We like that too. We like anything that vibrationally unifies you. We don't like anything that has you separate. And it doesn't mean you can't separate peacefully. You know, when you all leave, you'll all go in your little vehicles and you'll drive to your places and you'll go to your beds and go back into sleep. Hopefully there'll be wonderful dreams awaiting you. And hopefully you'll get your body some nice rest, because they do need rest. And hopefully you'll wake in the morning feeling peaceful and unified. And then you can come together with those people as you choose. But do not see yourself as separate. If there was one S, sin, it was this S, separate. Seeing oneself as separate from God, seeing oneself as separate from other, seeing one separate from oneself. How many people feel unified within oneself? Well, I'm a little conflicted. I'm a little confused. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do that. I don't know if I'm really this person, this concept that I think. Well, one day I think I'm this great person, the next day I think I'm this shitty, stupid, oh God, I feel so bad. How many people are separated from themselves? So replace the S separation to surrendering into the stillness and the silence of your being. In there is peace. In there is spirit. In there you've never been separated from spirit. Only the mind thought it to be so. Only the confusion saw it to be so. This mind got closed up. And man lived their lives in these lower, they call them chakras now, but energy places. They were confused and they were closed off from spirit and even from themselves. And they thought I was this body. And all I need to do is eat. All I need to do is have sex and propagate. And all I need to do in my power is survive. Well, when you're only in these three chakras, that's kind of where you hang out. But when you expand out to your heart, all of a sudden, whoo, I feel really kind of expanding because I'm loving and I'm feeling love and it's expansive. And then I can speak this out, I can sing it out, I can voice this. Om, Shanti, Shanti. And now my mind is actually remembrance, and it's now in an expanded state, and it's not in the fear state, which is very contracted. And now my crown is actually, it's already reaching to the heavens, that's why I walk erect. And now I can communicate with all beings. All that is, all the time. And it doesn't mean we have like 7 billion voices going off at once, that'd be too confusing. But I can at least have access to that which I want to have access to. But I have access to the truth of my being, which is I am divine. And maybe these brain cells will start activating, and I use more of the brain thing, which allows my consciousness to expand. The parts of your brain that you're not using, and it's in a dormant or a sedated state, is the part that, if it expands, will start remembering your grace, your beauty, your divinity, your power, that doesn't need to power over or be below. It's just power. It's a force, life force.